Hi guys, it's Maddie. I'm back. This is probably going to be the first video I post of 2018. I decided that I was going to make my conversion video. It definitely has been the biggest impact on my life so far, so I'm just going to jump right into the video. If you're interested in my conversion, just keep watching. So let's start with my name. I'm Madison Landry. I'm recently married. I've been married for about 5 months. I'm 20 years old, which is young, I know, but it's great. I have recently converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in February of 2017. I guess I'll just start with some background information on my life before I found the church. I won't go all the way back because that's 20 years and we don't have a bajillion hours to sit here and talk. But I'll start with like 9th grade. 9th grade is when things really started to change for me. I got into a relationship my freshman year. And it was a very abusive relationship and it was very unhealthy, and he ended up sexually assaulting me on August 30th of 2012. I was 15. He took my virginity forcefully, and that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever been through. It definitely affected my life ever since then. It affected, especially back then, it affected the way I thought of myself. It affected my self-esteem, my self-respect. It caused eating disorders, self-harm, very self-destructive thinking, suicide attempts, suicidal thoughts. I thought it was my fault for the longest time, and I got bullied for it in high school. People took his side and we went to the same school, and it was just a disaster, and I'm sure I'll make a video on that later. It's a totally different subject, but yeah, it was really hard. And after that, I sort of lost everything. I decided that there was no reason to save my body or stay pure or respect myself because there was really nothing left to save, and it ended up really affecting the way I think now and my marriage. So throughout high school after that, I started to smoke weed, I started to party. I didn't really drink back then, but I started to party and to let guys use my body, and it was really mentally draining. And then my junior year, I got homeschooled, and that was a changing point back then. I started going to Harvest, which is a church here in Southern California where I live, and I went Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and I was super dedicated, and that lasted a while. And then once I graduated, or yeah, a little before I graduated, I got into a serious relationship. It was a little over a year long, and he was great. His family was wonderful. He was a very respectable boyfriend. I just wasn't ready. I personally sabotaged our relationship. I was self-conscious. I had trust issues. I constantly accused him of cheating on me. It was a mess. And after that, I felt like I had no hope. I felt like there was no hope left for me, that I was never going to be able to have a successful relationship, or that the guy who sexually assaulted me told me that no one would ever love me, and I was starting to believe that. I was starting to believe that it was true. And so after that, I partied every single night, not an exaggeration, for 2 years straight. I drank every single night. I totally lost self-respect. I was drained. I felt numb. I felt nothing. If I wasn't drunk, I was sleeping or at work, and I took that for granted. I was irresponsible, and it was terrible. It was a terrible time in my life, and eventually it got too much. It was too much to be used for sex. In October, my best friend that I've been best friends with since 3rd grade got married in Utah, and she was LDS, and so she invited me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding, and I was super nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I have all these tattoos, my head was shaved, and all I could think was, I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna stand out like a sore thumb, and she's gonna be embarrassed that she invited me, and I'm just gonna ruin her wedding. And so I got there, and I was super uncomfortable, but as soon as I got there, like to the temple, I was at home. I felt safe, I felt loved, I felt encouraged, I felt like family, and I didn't even know these people, and I felt like family. I was also really curious as to what a temple was and why I couldn't see my best friend get married. And I also thought it was super cool because I've always thought marriage was so sacred and so important and so beautiful between the husband and the wife. And I thought it was so cool that this religion captured that it was so sacred, and that not everyone could see it, and that it was in this special sacred place. And I thought that was so cool. And so eventually I left Utah, I went home, and I continued to party. Not as much, but I did. And I remember I went to a hookah bar with my friend. We've been best friends since 6th grade as well. And so we went to this hookah bar. It was about 2 or 3 hours away. And long story short, she got into a really bad car accident on the way home, and I almost lost my best friend. And I realized, is partying and drinking worth losing your life, or losing your best friend's life, or having to affect your family just because you have no respect for yourself? And so eventually I stopped partying, not because of religion or anything, just because it became not fun. It was just not interesting, and none of my friends understood why. I just stopped. Like, it just wasn't fun for me. And so around December, New Year's Eve, I was supposed to go to a party, and I decided to stay home. I wasn't feeling well, and that was the last time. December was the last time I partied and drank, and I just gave it all up on my own. And then around January, I messaged her mom, my best friend's mom, who got married in Utah. I messaged her, and I was like, what's Mormon? Like, what is it? Like, I want to know. And she instantly jumped on it and was so supportive and so encouraging, and immediately contacted the mission president out here and got the missionaries in contact with me. And I'm pretty sure they called me that day or the day afterwards, and they called me and they set up a lesson with me, and we had the lesson. But during that time, I was suffering from really, really bad anxiety, and I would get really severe chest pains and have to go to the hospital. And so that day, I was out shopping for my uniform for my EMT school, and I got really bad chest pains. My mom took me to the hospital, and they didn't do much, and then they sent me home, and I went to the lesson. And I remember walking in the door of this family that let me take the lessons there, and they are amazing, by the way. They were just totally welcoming and supportive and loving. And I walked in the door, and my anxiety was gone. Instantly. It was gone. And it was amazing. And I sat down. I felt fine. I felt comfortable. The missionaries instantly made me feel like we've been friends for years. We talked and talked and talked, and I took lesson after lesson. And shortly after the first lesson, maybe the second lesson, I agreed to get baptized. And apparently that was shocking for them, that I was just so open and into it. And the night we took my first lesson was a Saturday, and the next day was a Sunday, obviously. And so the Saturday night after my lesson, I went home and I read all of 1st Nephi, which is the first book in the Book of Mormon. And I went to church, and I was so excited to tell them, and they were super stoked. And I remember being super uncomfortable and not wanting to go inside and feeling like I was going to be stared at and I was going to make no friends. And so they came out to my car and they got me and they walked me inside, and I remember every single person, like I swear every person, was greeting me, asking me my name, introducing them to me, and I just felt so welcomed. A little uncomfortable, but extremely comfortable at the same time, if that makes sense. And I just fell in love. From that day on, I just fell in love. I got baptized on February 26th, 2017, and it was the best day of my life. My best friend who got married in Utah, her dad actually baptized me, which was super special since we've known each other since 3rd grade. And he actually was the one who confirmed me the next day, which was awesome. And I remember when I was in the waters, I got put down in the water, and I remember like it looked like I was looking up at the water, and I just saw light, and it was peaceful. And then I sat up, and I felt like all the weight of all the things I've done was gone. And I remember leading up to my baptism, I knew I was forgiven. Like, logically I understood that, but I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't feel like I deserved it at all, and I definitely couldn't forgive myself. Instantly when I came out of the water, I felt free. It's the best way to explain it. I felt free. And shortly after that, I joined the YSA, which is the Young Single Adult Church, like ward of our church in our area. And I got called as a Relief Society teacher, which was super cool. And it was crazy because I've only been a member a few months. And it was the coolest experience being able to teach my peers and preparing for the lessons. And when I gave my first talk in my home ward, like, it all happened so fast, but it was amazing. Feeling that spirit was amazing. And after that, I moved back to my home ward. I got engaged to my husband. We got married after dating for 3 months, which was totally crazy, but it was the best decision I've ever made. It's had its challenges. It hasn't been perfect, but I've definitely been loved unconditionally. And it's just crazy. There's something totally different about this church. The spirit is totally different, and it's amazing. And I know this church is true by the experiences that I've had, not because someone told me to believe it or because I had nothing else to believe in. but because this church saved my life. Without it, I don't think that I would be here. And I know the impact that this church can have, and I know the things that attracted me to it are so beautiful and so worth it. Knowing Heavenly Father has a plan, and I think that is so wonderful, that anything I go through is a lot easier with the love of Christ. And I'm so grateful for His love, and for finally understanding that I'm a daughter of God, and it's time I act like one. I am living proof that Heavenly Father works in mysterious ways, and I'm living proof that anyone can change. I'm grateful for this church and the people that knew me 2 years ago and know me still. It is a drastic difference. I am not one to hide from my mistakes. I did things that I am completely ashamed of. There's pictures out there of me that I would never want my children or my daughters to see. I did all these things that I'm not proud of, but I did, and I know that Heavenly Father forgives me for them, and I know that they were for a reason, and I don't want it to be for no reason. I don't want the fact that I made those mistakes, I don't want it to be for no reason. I know that it's to help someone, and even if it's just one person, even if it's just you, if you're one person and you're watching this and it makes you have hope that the dark days get better. I've been there. I've been on the bathroom floor crying, feeling like if life's worth it, if you should continue. I've been there after being used, where you stare at the ceiling and you wonder if anyone will ever love you for more than your body. I know what it feels like to look in the mirror and see nothing but disgustingness, and to feel disgusted by who you are and what you look like. But I also know what it feels like to sit on the bathroom floor or kneel on the bathroom floor and thank God for everything that He's done for you, and to thank Heavenly Father for the life that He's blessed me with. I also know what it feels like to lay next to my husband and feel whole and feel loved and feel worthy and beautiful and worth something, worth everything. To look in the mirror and love what I see, even if I'm not happy with it, just to love what I see, because Heavenly Father made it. He made me this way, and I'm grateful for the breath that I have in my lungs and the life that I have. I know that there's hope, and even if it's just one person that needs to hear that things can change, I know it's out there. And if you want to email me, my email's down below, and it's linked on my Facebook and my Instagram. If you have any questions, let me know. There's hope. Just stick it out. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed.